You starting your day with us, and we're watching what's potentially a big storm developing in the Gulf right now. On alert, the tropical threat brewing in the Gulf strengthening today. Florida, Louisiana, and Texas on alert. Our team tracking the very latest.
New fallout this morning from the Jeffrey Epstein case. The multimillionaire charged with preying on minors. Now calls growing for Labor Secretary Acosta to resign for cutting a deal with the sex offender more than a decade ago. The president's response this morning.
Mid-air scare, caught on camera, a Delta plane's engine blowing. This piece flying around inside. Passengers told to brace for an emergency landing. The investigation underway.
Private health battle. The family of 20-year-old Cameron Boyce, the Disney star who suddenly passed away in his sleep, now revealing the medical condition he had been living with.
Dog napped. A soccer star's plea.
Somebody's broke into the house in LA, took my dog from the house.
After his Pomeranian is snatched. Now the fight to find Lucci.
Swimming with the sharks. The rare footage caught on camera where these two great whites were spotted spinning around each other.
And GMA is on the road, live from Texas. Our GMA RV rolling into Michael's hometown of Houston to surprise an incredible young hero.
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
Got some rock stars down there in Houston. Good morning, America. Let's make this a great one. This Wednesday morning, and we're not just live from here in Times Square. No, we are live on the road in Texas, as you saw.
Yeah, we want to meet you. We want to hear from you. We want to see you. So our RV is traveling all across the country right now, from Oklahoma to Dallas and now Houston.
Yeah, take a closer look. Yep, there's Michael, Larry, and Ginger getting ready for the big show in Michael's hometown, driving through the dark. We'll have a lot more in just a minute.
Now, we were supposed to believe that they were really driving right then.
For at least 5 minutes they were.
Okay, well, look at this great crowd. Look at this great crowd that is there to greet them.
That's right. We're so excited about it. There's also going to be a little crowd here in New York as well. Yeah, the ticker tape parade that you will be leading along with Team USA Women's Soccer Championships.
I know there's going to be a big celebration at City Hall, so I don't have to have my my parade wave ready. But you saw that they were in our studio yesterday. They're having a great time. They're just having a ton of fun all around New York, so I can't wait to join them later this morning. But first, we want to get to the morning's top stories, starting with that tropical threat that is brewing in the Gulf. It's packing heavy rain. Now, the fear that it could cause dangerous flooding. Rob is going to track it all for us and has the latest on its path. Good morning, Rob.
Hey, good morning, Rob. We're already starting to see a little bit of that flooding. This is a system that started in Tennessee, has drifted into the Gulf of Mexico, Sarasota, Florida yesterday. 3 inches of rainfall. Let me show it to you where it is on the satellite imagery. Now in the northeastern Gulf of Mexico, a developing tropical cyclone could become a named system later on today. If so, its name would be Barry. Computer models at this time tomorrow morning bring it just abreast of New Orleans in the Gulf of Mexico. Water temperatures here 85, 87 degrees, so more than enough to get things going. And then by Friday morning, looking at a fairly strengthening tropical storm. And then our computer models after that, here are the spaghetti plots, mostly going into southern Louisiana with this. Potentially as a hurricane, wouldn't be surprised to see hurricane watches out at least. Hopefully nothing more than that. But I think the big story with this is going to be the heavy rainfall. We saw it in Sarasota. It's not a fast mover, so locally 10 inches of rainfall on the I-10 corridor. So we're looking for flooding, potentially some storm surge, and we'll look for some wind as well. Updates coming throughout the morning and tomorrow. Amy, over to you.
We know you're on top of it, Rob. Thanks. We're going to go now to the fallout, new fallout from multimillionaire Jeffrey Epstein's arrest for sex trafficking underage girls. Well, this morning, the calls are growing from Democrats and 2020 candidates for Labor Secretary Alexander Acosta to step down over his role in brokering that controversial plea deal with Epstein more than a decade ago. Chief National Affairs Correspondent Tom Yamas is here with all the latest. Good morning, Tom.
Amy, good morning to you. The Jeffrey Epstein scandal has rocked Palm Beach, Manhattan, and now our nation's capital. The White House dealing with the Epstein matter on two fronts, as we're hearing this morning from someone who spent time inside Epstein's New York mansion at the center of the investigation. This morning, President Trump standing by his labor secretary, Alexander Acosta, at least for now.
I feel very badly, actually, for Secretary Acosta, because I've known him as being somebody that works so hard and has done such a good job. But we're going to be looking at that and looking at it very closely.
Calls growing for Acosta to resign in the wake of the Jeffrey Epstein indictment. The disgraced financier charged with sex trafficking underage girls, allegedly assaulting them in massage rooms inside of his $77 million Manhattan mansion and $12 million home in Palm Beach, Florida, as seen in this police video. Some of the allegations in the new case also part of the investigation more than a decade ago.
I pled guilty to solicitation of prostitution.
But the wealthy money manager with a team of high-powered lawyers struck a deal with Acosta, who was the U.S. attorney overseeing the case at the time. Epstein served just 13 months in county jail, allowed to work out of his office 6 days a week, registering as a sex offender. Critics say Acosta chose not to indict in spite of evidence gathered by investigators.
He beat it once with the extraordinary help of the government. And doing the entire thing in secrecy and under the cloak of darkness, which clearly we don't have this time.
The labor secretary responding to critics tweeting, "The crimes committed by Epstein are horrific, and I'm pleased the New York prosecutors are moving forward with a case based on new evidence." Prosecutors say they do have new evidence this time around, including nude photos seized in Epstein's home. Some appear to be of underage girls. Vicky Ward, who covered Epstein for Vanity Fair, spent time inside that mansion.
So, he very much, I think, created his own worlds within his own homes. He wasn't moving out and about in the way that other people of his wealth and social status normally do.
The government is seeking to seize that sprawling Manhattan mansion. Right now, Epstein is being held at the Manhattan Correctional Center, home of the drug lord El Chapo and convicted felon and former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort. And the president acknowledging he knew Epstein years ago. The Trump organization says Epstein was banned from Mar-a-Lago by Donald Trump himself after a falling out.
I had a falling out with him a long time ago. I don't think I've spoken to him for 15 years. I wasn't a fan. I was not, a long time ago. I'd say maybe 15 years. I was not a fan of his, that I can tell you.
Now, we should also mention it's not just Democrats, but Republicans who are putting pressure on the White House to investigate the decision not to indict Epstein all those years ago. Acosta, for his part, is standing by his decision. George?
But, Tom, as you said, the pressure is building, so we want to go to our senior congressional correspondent, Mary Bruce, for more on this. Lots of calls from Democrats for Acosta to go. Republicans holding their fire for now.
Yeah, George, there are these growing calls from Democrats that say that Acosta simply has to go for that previous plea deal that led to that minimum sentence. Now, of course, we have seen the president standing by his labor secretary, but he is leaving a window open to possibly changing his mind. And we have certainly seen the president do that in the past. Now, on the Hill, Democrats say that he just has to go, while Republicans instead are demanding more information. They say a decision about Acosta's future lies with the president. George.
Meantime, Mary, we have some breaking news that came in just a couple of minutes ago. The British ambassador to the United States, Kim Darroch, has resigned in the wake of those leaked cables that were quite critical of the Trump administration.
Yeah, and George, this comes, of course, after the president said earlier this week that he will no longer deal with the UK ambassador after those leaked diplomatic cables showed that Kim Darroch called Trump's administration inept and incompetent. Trump, of course, then fired back, getting personal, calling Darroch wacky and a very stupid guy. It seems now this morning that this fight between the two of them have reached a tipping point. We have now learned that the UK ambassador is resigning. George.
Mary Bruce, thanks very much, Robin.
And George, now to the search for answers after that accident on a cruise ship. Questions are growing this morning after a toddler fell through a window. Ariel Reshef is here with that story for us. Good morning, Ariel.
Good morning to you, Robin. Their attorney says Chloe's parents are beside themselves, now trying to piece together what happened to their little girl. The family claiming the entire tragedy could have been avoided.
This morning, an Indiana family demanding answers after 18-month-old Chloe Wiegand tragically fell 150 feet to her death from this Royal Caribbean cruise ship. Officials in Puerto Rico say the toddler plummeted from deck 11 of the Freedom of the Seas when it was docked in San Juan Sunday.
This was just a terrible mistake, a terrible accident, although I do think it was a preventable accident.
Her family now fiercely fighting back against early reports she slipped from her grandfather's arms, saying Chloe was playing with him near a wall of glass windows in a children's water park area seen in this video taken earlier this year, and he had no idea this window was open.
I so vividly remember him telling me through tears, I thought she was going to bang on the glass, and he lets go of her for a second and she was gone.
According to her family, Chloe loved to look through glass, pictured here face against the boards at her big brother's hockey game. The Puerto Rican police commissioner saying investigators are interviewing her family members. The Wiegand's lawyer claiming the cruise line should have done more to ensure the safety of the ship's youngest passengers.
You're not supposed to have an opening like this that has an opening greater than 4 inches. And this is a giant gaping hole.
Royal Caribbean telling ABC News, "We are deeply saddened. Our hearts go out to the family." Later saying in a statement, "We are assisting local authorities as they make inquiries."
And we're told Chloe's family is hoping to leave the island for Indiana sometime today. Their attorney says it's still too early to know if they'll file a lawsuit. They want to see the surveillance footage from that ship and say they have so many questions before they do that.
It is so heartbreaking. Our hearts certainly go out to that family. Thank you so much, Ariel. Well, now to that crazy sight caught on camera. A passenger sharing this video from a Delta flight showing part of the plane rattling around one of its engines, forcing an emergency landing. Yeah, that's not something you want to see when you're looking out the window. David Curley has the latest on the investigation.
A frightening sight for passengers, an engine blown, and the nose cone from that engine still tumbling inside.
After we heard the boom, we just saw all this smoke come up into the cabin, and that's when we really started freaking out.
The captain announces the engine loss, and flight attendants start preparing the passengers for an emergency landing.
Fasten your seatbelts, loosen your collars, remove ties, scarves, and eyeglasses.
Each passenger asked by the flight attendants to show that they know the bracing position.
The flight attendants are going to come through and make sure that you've got this position down.
Make sure your seatbelt is really tight, as low as possible. When we say brace for landing, put your, forward, your head to your left.
The flight from Atlanta to Baltimore quickly diverting for this emergency landing in Raleigh-Durham. As the jet landed in Raleigh, those emergency vehicles respond. Later, finally landing in Baltimore, the passengers recount their anxious moments.
I just texted my mom, "I love you." I texted my dad, "I love you."
Quite the sight to see that engine nose cone from the end of the shaft still bouncing around in that engine. It's been taken off the aircraft, being shipped to Atlanta to figure out what happened. And George, they put a new engine on. That jetliner is going to be back in service later today.
Quick fix. Okay, David, thanks very much. We have the investigation now into a carbon monoxide leak that poisoned dozens of people at a motel in Canada. ABC's Janae Norman here with that story. Hey, Janae.
Hey, George, good morning. There are so many questions. Authorities want to know why so many people at that Super 8 in Winnipeg, Canada, were exposed to carbon monoxide levels that were 20 times the normal limit.
The calls came pouring in. Reports of an apparent carbon monoxide poisoning inside a Super 8 motel in Winnipeg, Canada.
The Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service received a general alarm call from this location.
Authorities say nearly 50 people, including staff and one dog, were rushed to the hospital, more than a dozen listed in critical condition. Fire officials say the leak originated from the motel's boiler room. The major scare set off an alarm that detected the carbon monoxide levels were nearly 20 times over the limit.
None of the patients were requiring resuscitation. None of them were intubated or anything quite invasive such as that.
Carbon monoxide, the so-called silent killer, is odorless and colorless, causing symptoms ranging from a headache to nausea or worse. Out of an abundance of caution, Manitoba Hydro, which provides electric and gas services to Winnipeg, shut off the gas to the building while investigating the cause.
We don't expect any fatalities from this.
Authorities are crediting an automatic alarm with saving lives. Here in the U.S., by law, many states require hotels and motels to install carbon monoxide detectors. And while the decision to place them in each unit varies when traveling, that is something you should always remember to ask about.
No question about that. Thank you, Janae. Amy?
All right, George, now to a lawsuit facing one of the country's biggest and most well-known hotel chains, Marriott, that could affect travelers all around the world. The Attorney General in Washington, D.C. is suing the company, accusing it of using hidden fees to bump up room costs. Rebecca Jarvis is here with more on this. I'm sure a lot of people are paying attention to this one, Rebecca.
Oh, absolutely, Amy. These hidden fees have become a big issue. They're frustrating, and they can increase the cost of your bill by nearly $100.
This morning, Marriott, one of the largest hotel companies in the world, sued by Washington, D.C.'s Attorney General, accused of bait-and-switch advertising and deceptive pricing practices on bookings made at Marriott.com, Expedia, Priceline, and other travel websites. Marriott, which owns 30 brands, including Sheraton and the Ritz-Carlton, is accused in the lawsuit of misleading customers and reaping hundreds of millions of dollars by charging hidden resort fees. The suit alleges those hidden resort amenity or destination fees can quietly increase the true cost of a hotel room by as much as $95 per room per day and can show up on your bill buried under the heading taxes and fees.
Marriott in a statement says, quote, "We don't comment on pending litigation, but we look forward to continuing our discussions with other state AGs." Amy, a lot of states are now looking into this because it's become such a pervasive issue.
So while we wait for that to happen on Capitol Hill, what can consumers do in the meantime? Is there any way to avoid these fees?
So there is a great website out there called resortfeechecker.com. You can go there if you're going to a major city like Las Vegas or New York. Check your hotel ahead of time to see if they do impose these fees. But another thing I recommend people do, call ahead. Call your hotel, tell them, I'm planning on staying with you. Do you charge these fees? If you do, I'm going to cancel my reservation. That's a good way to force them to potentially take the fees off your bill.
I like that. Get ahead of it.
Yes, absolutely. Advocate for yourself.
That's right. Always. Those fees really do add up.
They're very frustrating, and they do.
Okay. All right, Rebecca. Now we're going to turn to the festivities getting underway right here in New York City to celebrate the U.S. women's soccer team after their World Cup win. Thousands of people are going to be lining the streets for this epic ticker tape parade. Eva Pilgrim is already down there at City Hall. Has more for us. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, Robin. Yeah, this area will be filled with die-hard soccer fans here to celebrate the now four-time world champions. They'll be marching through this area of New York known as the Canyon of Heroes. This is all part of a massive parade, very similar to the one they got after winning the World Cup 4 years ago. It'll end down here at City Hall, where New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio will present them with the keys to the city. Now, today's celebration comes just one day after the big homecoming the team got right here on GMA. And after that kickoff, the ladies kept the party going all day, lighting up social media as they hung out on a rooftop pool in downtown Manhattan. They were even treated to a sunset cruise on a $100 million yacht, Robin.
They are living large. I got to tell you, they work so hard, so they deserve everything that's coming their way. And there's more excitement heading their way as well, and more work to do as well, Eva.
That's right, Robin. They still have more work to do. The tournament may be over, but they are hoping for a victory off the field. Equal pay mediation with the U.S. Soccer Federation is supposed to begin here soon. But even before that, they are going to be very busy. Today, they're here right now on the East Coast. They have to fly to the West Coast to appear at the ESPYs. That will be live here on ABC starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And then there's a victory tour. They will play 4 exhibition games in cities across the country so that their American fans can see them kick it on the field. And finally, Robin, hopefully after all that, they'll get some sleep.
Maybe then. I look forward to seeing you later there, Eva. Thank you. It's going to be a lot of fun there.
And they are making the most of their moment.
They are. They really are. They really are. And they are just being embraced by so many folks.
It's good to see.
It is.
We're following a lot of other headlines this morning, including we have these new details about the death of Disney star Cameron Boyce. His family is now revealing his private health battle, and Dr. Ashton's going to explain that ahead.
Also this morning, that soccer star's desperate plea to get his Pomeranian back. There's a search right now for Lucci. Oh, hope it do. That's so sad. Rob?
More flooding across Nebraska, guys. I want to show you this, and this is where we potentially will have some severe weather, especially east of Nebraska. Time now for your Stormy Cities, brought to you by Downey.
Well, here's to first dates. You look amazing.
And you look amazingly comfortable.
When your V-neck looks more like a U-neck, that's when you know it's half washed. Try Downey Fabric Conditioner. Unlike detergent alone, Downey helps prevent stretching by conditioning and smoothing fibers. So clothes look newer, longer. Downey, and it's done.
A pretty comfortable start on this Wednesday morning. Your temperatures in the lower to mid 70s will hit lower 80s by lunchtime today. Still dry and fairly comfortable, close to 90 degrees. No storms today, but tomorrow we'll be back on weather alert for the afternoon and evening, tracking some scattered strong to potentially severe thunderstorms with high winds, a fairly high chance of that, as well as some isolated heavy rains and flash flooding again. And then a potential heat wave starting this weekend. 91 Saturday, 92 Sunday, 90s through early next week.
we're going to be heading live to Houston. And since Michael is there, it's Wednesday, Amy, so
it's hump day.
Corey is living with